one's for the birds, this one's for the city. This one for the fans that bleed green with me. Push down the 95 to the right is the link. With a team pulling up, knowing that they getting beat. Exit Broad Street, right on Patterson. Xfinity Live, CPP, what's happening? Dub F Lie, stop by F1. Fly Eagles fly, you hear the song getting sung? What team in the league is number one? Bird gang, yeah, I said it twice. You heard me say it once, now you sure you heard it right. No lies being told, yeah, it's all facts. It ain't me, Green or Kelly, we don't rock with that. Any given Sunday, we don't ever slack. Yeah, we got an SB, time to run it back. And even on the road, yeah, we taking over. All you see is green like you at the Nova. Care less about your squad, bro, it's only us. A cheesesteak tailgate, yeah, we good, bruh. Beer pong baptism, you already know. Con shot, tomato pie, bring 3 or 4. After every bird gang, you know where to be. 4th of Jawn, NBC, in the heart of Philly. About the birds, all about the birds. E-Rock, Del, Son is Hollywood, her. Look up.
Here we go, broadcasting live from NBC Sports Philadelphia in the heart of the Wells Fargo Center. Welcome to 4th and Jawn, episode 114. Boys and girls, the Philadelphia Eagles beat the division rival New York Giants on Monday Night Football in front of a primetime audience. So for the loyal listeners of this show and for those of you out there that know me, you know that I do not subscribe to many football cliches. At the top of that list, a win is a win. Now, granted, Gale, they won, but there certainly is a lot to complain about, a lot to pick apart about that Philadelphia Eagles win, whether it's the coaching, the Bobo coaching of Doug Peterson, especially in that first half, whether it's the play of Carson Wentz not hitting open receivers, throwing when he's supposed to be holding on to the ball when he's supposed to be throwing, taking sacks when he's supposed to be running. There's a lot to complain about as far as the defense goes. Apparently, it was Ronald Darby's turn on the defensive back torch list. There was a lot to complain about that game. But boy, oh boy, did it feel good to walk out of Lincoln Financial Field with a dub. It's felt like forever since we left the Link holding that W above our heads. In fact, it was before the bye week against the Chicago Bears, right? It felt like forever, especially against the Patriots, against the Seattle Seahawks, and losing that game in Miami, which I am still trying to figure out how exactly we lost. And it was rainy, and it was cold at Lincoln Financial Field. But temperature be damned, the fans were there, the fans were in it, and I'm going to get real Nat Geo wild on you for a second. There are 5 climate zones in this beautiful blue and green earth.
Is this EFF?
Yeah, this beautiful blue and green planet we call Earth. And if you visit the big island of Hawaii, the beautiful big island of Hawaii, you can visit all 5 of those climate zones. Shout out to all our Hawaiian followers and people watching right now. But if you were, that's a perfect metaphor. I see you looking at me, Ev. It's a perfect metaphor for that Philadelphia Eagles game and the way the fans reacted last night. Because there were 5 different fan temperature zones that we went through. See, I'm coming full circle.
I got you.
You see where I'm going with this one now? Okay, here we go. First and foremost, you're excited. It's prime time. It's Monday Night Football. You're playing in front of a national audience against the New York Giants. Eli Manning's coming back. Oh, that guy who started his career and made his NFL debut against the Philadelphia Eagles and held an L for the first time he ever snapped a ball under center. We're going to finish his career with an L at Lincoln Financial Field, man. The fans were ravenous. They were frothed up. They were excited for this game. So there's one temperature of the fans right then and there. And then what do the Eagles do? They come out with that same BS they've been coming out with this whole entire season. Carson Wentz can't hit guys right in front of him. He's sailing balls. They're not running the ball effectively. Doug Peterson's calling plays like he's looking at football for dummies. The defense is getting torched. They can't tackle. They're making Eli Manning dropping dimes deep look like vintage Eli Manning. Are you kidding me? And the fans got angry. Boy, the boo birds were out early. Yeah, you talk about having a boo in the chamber. Boy, they had a boo in the they were making up for boos they didn't have the opportunity to give down in Miami. Pissed off Eagles fans. It's temperature number 2. Temperature number 3, going into halftime. There were 3 failed third down conversions where Philadelphia Eagles fans didn't even bother to boo. They punted, incomplete pass on 3rd down, punt the ball, don't care. Meh. Apathetic Eagles fan. That's the worst, man. When you're sitting there just sad in your seat and it's cold and it's rainy and you don't even have the energy to boo, that's the third temperature. Then all of a sudden, late third quarter, fourth quarter, what's happening here? What's happening here? All of a sudden, the offense starts clicking, defense starts shutting them down. Now you got that, we can do that, that belief, right? That belief, Eagles fans, where you start to feel that pendulum swing in the other direction. And then at the end of the game, overtime, Zach Ertz in the end zone, jubilation. That's the height of Eagles fandom right there, baby. When you are just excited and screaming your head off, that's the 5 temperatures of those Eagles fans. I got home at 2:30 in the morning. I could not fall asleep till 4 o'clock in the morning. I am exhausted. Mr. Gail Saunders, Eagle Sessions on Twitter. You were there with me, baby. For the whole game. We stuck through it. How you feeling?
I feel alive. I mean, I think I needed that W for my spirit.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz had this message to the team about keep believing at the halftime. This is what he was telling his players. And, we're a fan-centric podcast, and you start asking yourself, after all these L's that we've been catching, you're like, why do I do this to myself? Why do I put myself in harm's way, in middle of the storms? I could get sick out here. We tailgate through this. We come to the games. When people are selling their tickets, we are going straight to the eye of the storm because we don't care, because we are fans at the end of the day. We could be fanalists. Can we say that?
Yeah.
But you're like, why do we do this? But you keep believing. There's some part of your spirit where you're like, you know what? They could pull this out, perhaps. You might have this argument with yourself, like, are we really doing this? Yes, we're doing this. We're going to go to this game. We're going to watch this dub. And we saw 3 quarters of terrible football.
Yes.
Where we questioned things, questioned the players. But at the end of the day, when you're talking about role players stepping up, a journeyman wide receiver who's been on this team for 3 years who couldn't crack the squad, comes up, makes plays. Boston Scott has the game of his life. A veteran tight end like Zach Ertz making big plays and big moments. Jawn coming up with big catches. Even Sidney Jones season, it may be for one play comes in and it makes a big stop. We're talking about guys coming up big in big moments to get the dub. And last but not least, Carson Wentz.
Yes.
You might think it's the Giants. Yeah, they beat the Giants. All right. It's no big deal. But it's part of the story of Carson Wentz, his experience. His first overtime win for this franchise. And he came back and brought this team back to a victory with role players, guys who have not been on the roster for more than 3 weeks. So, I mean, from that standpoint, the team came together. You think about the Giants when we had with Jake Elliott kicking that field goal. Is this Giant win the game that brings us back? I know we have players hurt. Every week. Alshon is out now for the season. Lane Johnson is hurt. Can we get maybe Nelson Aguilar back, Jordan Howard back maybe? But it's an opportunity for this team to go on the road, get another dub, and fight for the NFC East. Are y'all with me?
I'm with you, and I will say this before we move on to Evan. I realize, we're excited right now, right? We're real happy right now, and we're up here because we've got that overtime win. I have tempered expectations of this team if they should make the postseason, but I've narrowed it down to this. Just the overall ridiculousness of the fact that we are in this position with the record that we have the possibility of losing the division and still keeping Cowboys out of the division. That's my only focus right here, right now. Evan Hollywood Hearn, how you doing?
Man, I needed that win like I needed air, man. That was so nice to get last night. It was good to see, touch on what you said, Gail. We lost so many guys from Alshon, Lane, all the guys we've lost earlier in the season. But to see these guys that are, bottom of the depth chart guys step up and make plays, that is reminiscent of an Eagles team that I was familiar with. And that was good to see. Honestly, I'm loving that last night Carson was showing the flashes of what we're used to. Carson was getting outside the pocket. He was making plays. That's exactly the type of football I want Carson to play. I don't want him to be contained as a pocket passer. I'm liking him extending plays, waiting for somebody to get open. And, I mean, do you guys think he's a little bit upset about the whole he had his gender reveal today. I think he was planning on naming his daughter or his son Zach. Should it be a boy?
Yeah.
Did you see that gender
It could be
reveal,
it could
by
be
the way?
Zach Alicia. You know.
Yeah.
That was a very
kinda
interesting
interesting.
gender
It
reveal.
was a very Carson is a country boy through and through, man. And yeah, we could touch on that a little bit more. But I just I was thinking maybe like as I was watching our defense out there, I was thinking maybe Ronald Darby might have stopped by Club Jawn because it was popping. There was a lot of people that were there last night.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, just considering the way he was playing out there, maybe he swung by and I didn't see him. Had a few drinks.
a couple drinks.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. He definitely might have. And you both kind of touched on Carson Wentz. And a lot of the discussion, at least on Sports Talk Radio, on the timeline today that I did, and the limited time that I had to kind of look things over, was this a signature win for Carson Wentz? Is this his signature win? Is this his statement win? I'll argue this, and then, Gail, I'll pass it off to you. To me, this win for Carson Wentz, coming back in the fourth quarter, going to overtime, at the very least, checks a box. Because Carson Wentz, throughout his talented career so far with the Philadelphia Eagles, and we're talking about being an MVP candidate in 2017, setting the Eagles up, putting them in position to make that postseason run, basically earning them the NFC East, as well as earning them that first-round bye right there. As talented as he has been, and as much as he – because we forget – because we've had the last couple years of Nick Foles kind of coming and saving the day. This win at least checks a box, and it checks the hate a box. We got box. It checks the hate a box.
Okay.
Because what if Carson Wentz's haters been saying pretty much this entire season and some of last season? When's the last time Carson Wentz had a win when they were down in the fourth quarter, and he put his team on the back door, and he made his receivers better though? I need before I start buying in the Carson Wentz, I need to see those things. This might, in my opinion, it's not a signature win, it's not a career win, you know what I mean? But at least checks the box of Carson Wentz, despite playing poorly for just about 3 quarters worth of football, is capable of bringing this team from behind, putting the offense on his back, making his receivers, who, by the way, the skill position players last night were glorified third quarter preseason game skill position players, all besides Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
He's able to make those guys better. I think this might not be a career signature win, but man, it certainly checks a box for me.
I mean, he answers some questions. You know, for me, you know, at the end of the game, you started to see this different form of Carson, a guy that we've been talking about, wanting to see more tempo for him to get in rhythm. Well, I've been saying this for like weeks, just like once he gets that opportunity, you know, to get some juice, you can see it in the way his progressions, his eye discipline, that one throw to Dallas Goedert where he kind of like looked off the flare route and then hit the seam, and I was just like, he is on money right now. But someone was saying, you know, he got an opportunity to call some of those plays, you know, those package plays where he didn't have to think too much. You know, once he says kill, I get excited. I'm like, all right, this is the Carson I know. And then, you know, having these players step up and make plays for him, I mean, guys that are, I mean, talk about Greg Ward. I mean, a guy who's been trying to make this roster for so long, dude.
Yeah.
For him to come up and make big plays for Carson in Boston Scott, I mean, the screen game was awesome. But, like, it does make me question Howie Roseman in the front office and what they're doing with some of these players. Because a guy like Greg Ward, who's been trying to crack this roster, a guy like Mac Hollins, who's been on this roster for so long, has not made any plays. You know, what are they doing?
Yeah, well, you know, I'm going to get into my typical Howie defense stance right now. I'm going to get into my Howie defense stance right now because you know that front office guys always want to give every opportunity for players that they've invested draft capital in, right? They drafted these guys with pick. These are guys that they picked, not undrafted rookie free agents, not practice squad guys. These are guys that they picked, all right? That's human nature. You're going to want to give every opportunity for those guys to develop, prove themselves, so they prove you right. So they proved you right in the fact that you picked them, you were right, they're going to develop into something. That's just human nature. And as much as we love to bash Howie Roseman, again, I'm going to get in that defense stance for him.
Catch the L. Sometimes you got to catch the L, though.
Yeah, I understand that, but we do it, look no further than fantasy football. I mean, you draft a running back in the second round, right? You might picked up a guy on waivers who's outperforming. And I'm not saying by a mile, but doing better than the running back that you drafted in the second or third round. Who are you starting? You're going to keep starting the guy that you picked because you think he can do it, because you believed in him. You're going to start that guy. I know fantasy football and football are two separate worlds, but that's just human nature to want your guys who you picked to succeed. Turns out, listen, Greg Ward's a player. Maybe Carson Wentz was making him look a little better than he really is. Maybe that's the case. If that's the case, still definitely a good thing.
But he balled out in during the offseason. Like, he was making plays all through camp, in preseason.
Listen, we were there. We saw it.
I mean, so he's finally got his opportunity to shine. I mean, he does have that 4.3 speed. And definitely, he's been getting open.
Yeah.
Making catches.
Yeah, he has.
So.
I think to touch on the whole Carson Wentz thing, Icy Wentz put out a pretty interesting point just in comparison to Deshaun Watson. Carson's got 22 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and he's also got that I was looking over today. He's got 8 drop touchdowns. So I mean, let's take half of those. Let's say half of those should have happened. Okay. That's a fair statement.
If you had better skill position players.
If you had better skill position players.
I'll buy
but this is what it's saying is that Watson has one of the best receiving corps in the league with DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller. Carson is making this happen with Greg Ward now being his number 1 wide receiving option. So
And here's what I'll say, let's reel it back. Let's reel it back.
You understand my point?
I understand your point, but for 3 quarters, that was terrible football.
I
mean, let's call it what it is. I mean, some people were leaving at halftime, some people were leaving at the third quarter because, it was terrible.
Who was leaving at third quarter in here?
Listen, I'm not going to point fingers to anybody in this room. I'll just kind of look in their direction.
Tranquilo.
Wow, bro. Wow, bro. Wow.
Listen, give us credit. The momentum changed.
The momentum did change, but now I forgot what I was talking about. Since I was too busy breaking.
You're telling me to reel it back in.
Oh, reel it back in. Listen, there was 3 quarters of terrible football against a New York Giants team that is doing everything in their power to climb up the NFL draft board. That's probably going to fire their head coach at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. So realistically, we were so worried about another Miami Dolphins situation happening where this team, whether it be through injury, whether it be through weather, you can make it as many excuses as you want. Yeah. Listen, do whatever you got to do. I don't care. Just get the dub. It had Eagles fans really, really, really concerned.
I mean, the play calling for me is a concern, but that we could go back to the weapons, but I think not for them not to allow Carson to be Carson earlier in the game is what is concerning to me. Like the coaching, and all the fans in the crowd were saying a lot of the same things that I'm saying right now. But just like Carson caught like lightning in a bottle. 17 of 24 in the fourth quarter. 195 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like you saw the light bulb go off. Mm-hmm. So what is the disconnect between the plays that they have for starting the game and letting Carson be Carson? Like, where's the disconnect?
The scripted plays have been completely predictable. Me and your brother were sitting up in the stands, and we were just calling every play that was going to be happening, whether it be run, pass, who it's going to be going to, what side of the field. It's predictable, and that's the problem with the scripted play so far.
The challenge for Carson Wentz, with the injuries along the offensive line, and clearly the injuries at the skill position players, because Nelson, wasn't there. Mm-hmm. Alshon, chances are. And that's a wrap for him for this season. Yeah. God only knows what's going to happen next season. I know there's a ton of dead cap money
tied
up in that dude.
Can't trade that contract either.
You can't trade it, and he's going to be coming off a year where he's injured. So now all of a sudden you're down to like a ragtag group of third quarter of a third preseason game receivers. It's so difficult, but when you allow it, it's kind of reminiscent when you said let Carson be Carson. I'm kind of wearing this throwback 90s hat right now. It kind of reminded me of Randall. And let Randall be Randall. Remember that slogan? Like, that was a big thing. There was a disconnect between the coaching staff and Randall Cunningham where he just, let me be me.
Yeah.
Let Randall be Randall. And the challenge is, with all these injuries along the offensive line and with all these injuries at the skill position players, the challenge is letting Carson Wentz feel comfortable enough where he's able to effectively move the offense. I know it's this late in the season, but the Eagles against the New York Giants might have unlocked that mystery where it's like, yo, you got to let him take the reins. You got to give the keys to the kid. You got to let him take the wheel and run this offense the way he runs it. Sometimes too many cooks in the kitchen can spoil the soup. Now, you can't listen, Carson Wentz isn't Peyton Manning. Easiest job in the NFL, they always thought, was a backup quarterback. You're holding the clipboard. Easiest job in the NFL back in the day was Peyton Manning's offensive coordinator. Because Peyton Manning was the offensive coordinator. Yeah. You know what I mean? You don't offensive coordinate Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning offensive coordinates you. So he's not Peyton Manning. He's not going to call an entire game. But if you start giving him more responsibility of on the field being that general that he needs to be, maybe he can be that leader he needs to be. And if he can be that leader he needs to be, maybe the offense goes where it's got to go. That's all I'm saying about it.
You know, he's like a Favre guy. Like, he grew up studying Brett Favre. He's a gunslinger. He's got that mentality. But he's also, you know, him on the move is where I want Carson Wentz to be. Him in the pocket, you know, he can play in the pocket, but I think him on the move, you know, bootlegging, like, you know, creating on his own, he's just a different player. Mm-hmm. And, like, it's like, you know, when you see Carson Wentz, he's all red in the neck area, and you're like, he's that stress Carson.
What are you trying to say?
He's
red
always,
in the neck area.
He's always red in the neck area.
Yeah, but when he's
why you gotta be like that, Gail?
Oh,
just because he shoots shotguns for his gender reveal, he's red in the neck area.
That's what I'm not. He's kind of pinkish when he gets when he gets heated, and he's like uncomfortable.
What do you mean, you people?
This is like, go back and watch some footage of Carson Wentz.
Now you're getting reddish in the face right now, bro.
But you know what I'm that version of Carson where he doesn't look comfortable. I mean, once he gets in his zone, that's where I want him to be.
Yeah, and that's what he's struggling to get back to. But that's, you know, listen, if you can just win the next 3 games, it's the Washington Redskins, the big one against Dallas, and then away at New York Giants, and we should realistically, we're going to be at all 3 of those games, Gail, you and I. We're going to be at all 3 of those games.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a big last 3-game stand, and the Cowboys can lose, you know, to the Eagles, maybe one more. I mean, this again. You've heard us, if you've been following this show and listening to this podcast, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook right now, if you're subscribing on iTunes and listening to the podcast, you've heard us as fans kind of just talk it out all season. This has been just as much of a therapy session for you as it is for us. But my expectation, like, we know damn right and well that this isn't a playoff team. Like, did you watch that San Francisco 49ers New Orleans Saints game?
That game was unbelievable. That was
unbelievable game of the year.
Yeah.
But when you take a look at either one of those teams, you realize that you are not on the same level whatsoever with those teams. If you watch, you know, the Seattle Seahawks, you know you're not on the same level with them. We might have beat the Packers, had the right game at the right time on a short week and coached it up, and they had an off game and Devontae went that, whatever it might be. You realize that you are not on the same level, but I don't care if it's climbing to the top of Garbage Mountain. If the Eagles can handle their business and win, I don't care how ugly it is at this point. We know this season's a wash, but if they can just keep the Cowboys out of the playoffs, we get to look at Cowboys fans for an entire offseason and be like, how trash are you? You were healthy. You were talented. You have no excuse, and you cannot bump this sorry-ass Eagles team out of the playoffs, and we won the NFC East. All those Dak versus Wentz arguments, all those how many rings you got arguments get to be shelved once again for another offseason Because, you can't even get past us, bro.
I mean, the bragging rights are real. I mean, you get 365 days of memes.
Yeah.
We are going to come at you like you're not in the playoffs. What? I mean, it's serious business.
You guys buying NFC East champion gear though?
I might.
Wearing that proudly.
Collector's
Yo.
item.
You Prime would?
You gonna buy it?
Into my brother's face, I would.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Did you just take
If you got
pictures
Cowboys
of it?
fans in the family.
And tag Cowboys fans in it. Absolutely.
But it's interesting to watch the Cowboys. They're a wreck themselves. I mean, they've got
Train
some
wreck.
turmoil on the inside. You got Jerry Jones all P. Diddying up in every single interview, all up in the video. Jerry Jones, like, he can't stop himself, and I think it's starting to seep into the locker room.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that they're not the team that they were earlier in the season.
And say what you want about the Philadelphia Eagles. We're banged up. Carson isn't playing all that great. Doug Peterson's play calling, stuff like that. But you know what? When they went in the halftime against the New York Giants, this was echoed by Carson Wentz during the post-game press conference. This was echoed by Doug Peterson during the post-game press conference. I heard Brandon Graham talk about it. I heard Miles Sanders talk about it. They didn't hoot. They didn't holler. They didn't throw things. They didn't get angry. They didn't point the finger. They simply just said, listen, what team do we want to be? Who's going to step up and make a play? They came together. You know what I mean? And whether it's the owner not meddling like Jerry Jones meddles, or whether it's Doug Peterson trying to be a leader, unlike Jason Garrett, who's just clapping like one of those wind-up monkeys with the cymbals. You know what I mean? Because he's Jerry Jones's monkeys just sitting there clapping away. Yeah, you're doing a great job, Jason Garrett. You only got 7 points on the board. You still haven't beat a team with a winning record, just smacking those cymbals together like a monkey. Whether it's Bennett in the locker room causing a ruckus, you can tell, even though that team's more talented, the leadership just simply isn't there. And that's what was so pleasing about watching that Philadelphia Eagles team win. Whereas, listen, the boo. We were booing them. We were letting them hear it. Like I said, we had a booze on reserve, on ice, that we took off of ice and defrosted from the Miami game. So when they came to Philadelphia and they screwed up for the first time, we could chunk that boo on top of the boo we're currently giving them. They got booed off the field, broke my damn heart. I took video of it, didn't even have the heart to post it. I'm like, I can't even post it. And I'm sure this has happened before. I'm sure this, but I can't ever specifically remember it. They got booed coming onto the field. They got booed coming onto the field at halftime. But you know what? That didn't let them get to it. They know these Philly fans. They know how they're going to let their emotions kind of spit. They're going to voice their displeasure. They didn't stop believing in themselves. They didn't stop believing in themselves. And when you talk about those role players stepping up, those young guys stepping up, young guys just don't step up out of nowhere. You have to have leadership in order for them to step up. So that's kind of, along with this check in the box of Carson Wentz's, it wasn't a signature game, but it checked the box of him winning in the fourth quarter and a come-from-behind victory and winning in overtime. Besides that, my biggest takeaway from that game, the leadership actually started to spill over into the field.
Yeah. I mean, Carson had a great quote. He said, you got guys moving around, but for me, I've got no choice but to trust these guys. Some of these routes I've never even read before in those situations, but they stepped up and made plays. So he's in a weird position where he's got no other option. So you got a guy like Jawn, who
made a phenomenal catch.
That's where this guy wins. The whole game I'm talking about, like, throw it up to Jawn. Just that's where he wins. On those 9 routes, 50-50 balls, let him go be himself, and play to their strengths. So it was I was inspired by the young guys, because I mean, we've been hearing a lot of chatter from the fans, like Aguilar or the effort.
For me,
are they lazy? Or are they Alshon Jeffrey, has he bought in this season? And just to see wide receivers, there's a level of heart and there's a level of fight from a guy who's, he could be off the team next week. He's fighting for his life for a roster spot. But when you see
fighting for my damn life,
you see a guy like Aguilar who doesn't fight for a ball, and he's making $9.4 million when you got a guy who's just came off the practice squad who's like, this is my life right here.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's inspiring. I think hopefully that resonates within the locker room.
And you saw when they did not make plays, you saw it bother them. Like when Greg Ward missed that touchdown in the corner of the end zone, it was right smack dab in front of us. And when that defender kind of flashed in front of him and he dropped that ball, like that bothered him. You could see it visibly bother him.
Someone tipped it.
But even still, you know, like these younger guys, again, younger guys don't step up on their own, even though they're fighting for the job and without the proper leadership, and that's refreshing to see some semblance of leadership in the locker room. Yeah. I mean, I'm still riding high on. I'm still recovering from the tailgate.
Yeah,
dude, that was insane.
A lot of rain. We stayed underneath the awning. Nobody got soaked at all.
Yes, thank you for thank you, Gail. Thank you, Uncle Don and Liz, for hooking us up with K-Lot tickets. I can tell you that K-Lot was not ready for 4th and Jawn. K-Lot was not prepared for the show that was 4th and Jawn. We went in there, I was the first one in line, lined up, started setting up the tailgate. All of a sudden, security started circling us like sharks, like, what the hell is this all about? There was green lights and loud music and a wacky waving inflatable arm tube man. There was all sorts of...
You guys selling used cars over here?
Yeah. And there was like cases of beer, stacked upon thank you, Bud Light.
Yes.
And there was all these people underneath the awning and everything like that, underneath the solar panels. And they were scoping us out, being like, what the hell? Because
what the hell is going on out here?
Because it was our first time in K-Lot.
Yeah.
K-Lot's nice, a little bougie. A lot of people that just kind of sit in their cars, maybe play a little bit of cornhole. They don't tailgate. So all of a sudden, when we started setting up, they were like, who let the F-Lot hoodlums in the K-Lot? Because something you got to understand, that's an NFL-owned lot, right? That's a league property right there. So there are different rules that apply to K-Lot than they do F-Lot.
Yeah.
So first thing, we had like security guards kind of like circling in the golf cart, making sure everything's going okay. We have people walk up and be like, yo, you got to take down the wacky waving dude. I mean, somebody might get hurt or something. They're starting to get easy. They're starting to get a little antsy. They're getting, a little bit of tension there. So we took that down. We told them, hey, listen, don't worry about it. We're not trying to cause any trouble. We realize that we're F-Lot people. We're in your sandbox. We're going to play by your rules. If you don't see anything that you like, just let us know.
We adjusted the tailgate. We moved on over a little bit.
Yeah.
It was nice and cozy.
Condensed our space a little bit.
It was a good time though.
It was good.
And then so we got like the Yellow Jackets first, right? The Yellow Jackets came over to try to like quell the crowd. And then when the Yellow Jackets didn't work, then we got, what did we get? We get Silver Jackets. No, we got Silver Jackets next. And I walk, now I'm looking because the Sharks are circling. So I go up to the guy. I said, hey, Lan, how's it going? Listen, I know you're not used to this. It's a little bit of a tailgate scene. Don't worry about it. We're behaving ourselves. If you see anything that you don't like, feel free to come over and tell us. We'll make sure that everything's okay. We're in your sandbox. We want to play by your rules. They kept circling around us. And then we got the Blue Jackets in, and they were just looking for an excuse to shut us down for something. So the Blue Jacket came in and saw the toy drive, right? And he was like, listen, there's no soliciting in this parking lot. You got to shut this thing down. Toy drive, nah, we're not doing this right now. And I was like, that's okay. Listen, we'll shut it down if you want. I'll close the trunk. We won't do this anymore. But just to let you know, like, we got these tickets from the president of the Eagles, Don Smolinski. And listen, I didn't want to name drop the guy, and I didn't want to be like, yo, hey, listen, we know Uncle Don. You know Uncle Don? We know Uncle Don. Forget about it, okay? But I did drop a little bit of a name. I was like, listen, Don Smolinski gave us these tickets. He visits our tailgates frequently. He knows what we're all about. He knows what was happening here. We're all behaving ourselves. We're playing by the rules. He goes, all right, he gets on his little mic. All right, let me talk to command. I'm going to call Don myself. I said, I hope you do. Let him know that E-Rock from 4th and Jawn is just having a little toy drive here for kids who are needy.
It's for the children.
It's for the children. Think about it. 4th and Jawn is for the children. It's for the children.
Not just Wu-Tang, but 4th and Jawn is for the children.
Wu-Tang!
Okay.
For the children. And then afterwards, they all came over and be like, all right, we checked with command. You're all cool. Like, just try not to take up 10 spots.
Yeah. And shout out to all the people that came that brought toys.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Donated that to the Goofy Gators. Shout out to Karate Mark as well.
Yeah,
for setting all that up. But it would look like a Christmas tree setting. I mean, presents everywhere. I actually wanted to start playing with some of the toys myself. I'm like, I might take this home, but it's for the children.
It's for the children. And yes, again, to echo what Gail said, thank you so much to everybody who brought out a toy. Like, we were expecting, okay, we're going to – because I train with Karate Mark, right? So he has an annual toy drive the year prior. I said, next year, 4th and John's going to get in on this. So I put out the tweet. It's his mission. It's his his charity that he associates with. We were just trying to amplify his voice and carry on his good deed by helping him out. And we just put out the tweet. And when I say that we were overflowing, the car, there was no more room for toys. Like, there was toys on the floor, toys in the center console, toys in the trunk, toys on the seat, toys. There might have been a toy coming out of my rear end if I checked there, too. When I had 12, I had to clean out my car today. There were 12 bags, garbage bags, filled with toys, and I hadn't even cleaned out my brother's car yet, who had to take over the spillover toys. I got to do that tomorrow. So shout out to you guys. And again, shout out to all the staff at K-Lot. Didn't mean to cause a ruckus. Everything was cool. They were very affable, you know what I mean? They were just concerned that, they didn't get to see that kind of – they didn't know who Gail and E-Rock were. They didn't know what the 4th and Jawn crowd was all about. But at the end of the day, they were very pleasant to deal with. We thank Don Smolinski and Liz again for hooking us up with those tickets. And we had a great time. We stayed out of the rain. That was a major thing. We stayed out of the rain. By the way, did you see the forecast for Sunday?
Another rain?
This is the rainiest season I've ever experienced in my life.
I don't ever check the forecast.
It's reflective
ever.
of our season.
It's just not me, but
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. Let's get some Twitter questions rolling, man.
All right. Kyle Huff wants to know, was that OT drive the best drive of Carson's career to date?
His best drive?
I would say, given the significance of it, and given how he played prior to that, how the entire team played, how the offense played, given how they performed the week prior, given that the fact that they knew they needed to win in order to stay into the playoff race, I don't want to say most important because, again, like when people say career-defining win, like career-defining means it means it defines your career, right? Yeah. So when we look back on Carson Wentz's career, are we really going to look back
the 2-10 Giants?
Yeah, at the 2-10 Giants and be like, yo, Carson led him in an overtime win against the 2-10 Giants with Eli Manning, who, to quote our boy Copizzle, I'm sure celebrating this one, was sitting for 10 weeks drinking Bud Lights and eating Doritos on the couch, coming cold off the bench in order to play for Daniel Jones. Is that going to be his signature, career-defining win? A guy that in 2017 was a candidate to be an MVP, who led them on that Super Bowl run, so on and so forth.
Yeah, he had some drives.
Yeah, that's not his career-defining win. But as far as this year, single best drive, given the circumstance.
Yeah, I think it was important for his season this year and his confidence level. I think that kind of drive right there could bring some juice as he moves forward.
And you heard it in the stands, bro. You heard it like, yo, put in McCown, put in Josh, dude.
Yeah, McCown was ready to go in that receiver.
Bench Carson. And this is why, and Gail turned to me. He's like, dude, if they put in Josh and he moves the ball, this city is going to burn to the ground. I'm like, they're never going to do it. Yeah. And my mother was texting me, like, yo, why don't they put in the backup? Bench Wentz. Like, that's why you don't do it. Because we talked about messages like when Andy fired Juan and something like that. What's the message that's going to be received? Do you really want a quarterback controversy in Philadelphia again for the third straight year? You got rid of Nick to kind of put out that fire, right? If he starts moving the offense, do you really want to damage Carson? Do you really want these young guys who are performing well to look at Carson Wentz and start questioning his leadership? That's why you don't put in the backup, because you have what happened that night when the fireworks go off, Fly Eagles Fly is sung, and we're headed to the parking lots with a dub. That's why you don't bench Carson Wentz.
Yeah. I think, Carson Wentz, it's just an opportunity for him to, lead the ship. And with guys that aren't there who aren't maybe buying in, now we got guys that are bought in right now.
Yeah. And we all gave Doug Peterson, the collective eye roll when he was talking about, this is good for our leader. Remember losing to Miami? This is going to be good for our leader. How the hell, Doug, is this going to be good for your leadership? If you had leadership, you wouldn't be put in this position. I don't know. Maybe the guy had a point. Because his challenge the leadership did not stop believing and uplift these guys and stuff like that.
I mean, Jason Kelce did have a speech prior to the game. Did that resonate?
Maybe.
Perhaps.
There was a lot of messages.
And the players did not come out. There's no player intros.
No player intros.
Which was very interesting. We're sitting there waiting, and
I'm live on Twitter.
No player intros.
I always go live on Twitter because a lot of people who are watching at home don't get to see that.
Who do you think put that message out? Was that a Larry thing?
No, it's Doug thing.
Is it
That's a
Doug
Doug thing. You're practicing in pads this week.
No intros for you.
Well, listen, I look at Doug and I'm like, oh, now you're gonna put on your coaching big boy pants. Oh, now you're gonna play the hard roll. Oh, now you're gonna practice in pads. Oh, what week is it in the NFL? What point in the season? Now you're gonna practice in pads. And I know he only has so many that he can do that in, but you're starting to see the message start to be sent. We're practicing in pads. Jason Kelsey stepping up and talking to the locker room. They're being introduced as a team. We're going to find out, and we started last night, these last 4 weeks. Hey, who wants to be here and who doesn't? Let us know. Because if you don't want to be here, you're gone. We're in this type of season where nobody's job is safe. I don't care if you're a coach, a player, nobody's job is safe. So you let us know if you want to be here. Last night was a great step.
Yeah.
How about Dougie trying to trick play? Remember the Giants showed him how to call a timeout when you see a trick play?
Oh, yeah, that was good. Yeah,
Yeah, that's nice.
Like, that's how you call a timeout, dog.
I think everybody in the stadium was saying the same thing.
Everybody, man.
Like, oh, you're going to go for it? They call a timeout. That's how you use a timeout. You get in school by Pat Shermer. Think about it. Go ahead.
At Damon089 wants to know, what should the confidence level be for this fan base going forward after that win last night?
Not much.
1 through 10.
1 through 10?
1 through 10. Put a number on it.
Regarding what? Give me a specific confidence in what?
Confidence, I guess, in the rest of the season.
Confidence regarding what?
In a number? In number-wise?
Number-wise.
I'd say a 5. 'Cause, I mean, you're right. You're halfway there. Because you just don't know which team is showing up.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know who's going to be starting right about now.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to believe. I mean, at this point, we're like believing something's going to happen.
If we're talking about
you got to believe.
If we're talking at confidence level in winning the last 3 games, I will give you what is it? 1 to 10?
1 to 10.
I'll give you a 6. I'll give you a 6 because you don't know, again, what Gail said, you don't know what team's going to show up. You hope that what happened last night is a confidence booster to say, hey, listen, even though we might be down against an inferior opponent, we can come back and win this thing.
Yeah.
And when Dallas comes to town, not for nothing, but as talented as they are an absolute train wreck. You know, we can beat them in our house, and if we beat them in our house, you know, we have a great shot at winning the division. So I think earlier episode, what Ben, was it like 3, 4, 5 weeks ago? The question was asked, like, how confident, what was the percentage chance of us making the playoffs?
Yeah, that was right before the Seattle game.
Yeah, and I said 15%. I'll bump that up to a solid 60 right now. I'll bump that up. I'll eat my words on that one and bump it up to a solid 60, and I think that's appropriate. If you're asking about scale of 1 to 10, my confidence in Carson Wentz, I was at a 10 at the beginning of the season. I was down to about a 6 in the middle of the season. And I'm up to a 7. I think you need some coaching and obviously the playmakers around him and the offensive line. You know, okay, we'll go there. If you're talking about confidence in making them noise in the playoffs, 2%. Like, look, they're just not a playoff team, dude. If this was any other division, we'd be talking about the draft already. I've said that before. Let's go around the horn. Let's pick one and give a scale 1 to 10. Let's do Eagles, confidence in the Eagles making the playoffs on a scale from 1 to 10. 3 games to go, all in the division. Dallas Cowboys are a train wreck. Philadelphia Eagles are coming off of a big win. Evan Hollywood Hearn, we'll start with you.
I'm going with a 7.
You're going with the 7. Gail Saunders.
I'm going with a 7.
7. Spence.
6.
6. Can you elaborate a little bit on that, Spence? Because I'm curious, like the 6, because we're a little bit over 50-50 here. Where is your concern?
I guess, like, the offensive line now. You're all banged up. Lane could be out for God knows, and you're relying on Boston Scott and Josh Perkins.
I get it.
Season.
I get it. Even though the will and the drive and the leadership might be there, just the talent overall. Like, listen, you can have all the will and the drive and the leadership that you want. If you're just not talented enough, at the end of the day, you can beat the Giants. You can come back against the Giants. You can blow a lead against the Dolphins.
Right.
You know, are you going to be able to beat those Cowboys?
Have to.
I get it. Ben.
No one's going to like this. It's a 5.
Okay.
Here's why it's a 5.
Yeah.
I don't trust the Eagles, but I don't trust the Cowboys either. I look at it like this. You ever see one of those movies where the villain has one of those real awful, gives someone an awful decision to make? Let's think a Saw movie or whatever.
Yeah, like that you're locked up to something, but the key is sewn into the floor. You got to dig it out with a toothpick or something.
Yeah, like if it was like, hey, if the Eagles win, you get this $1 million, but if they lose, I got to chop your leg off. I'm just walking away. I'm not doing it. I have no faith in them. I have no faith in the Cowboys, like, winning another game. I just want to stay away from all of it and be happy.
Yeah. That's why I'm in it. Like, 2 weeks ago, I was furious about that loss against the New England Patriots. I was furious about that loss, and I'm like, I don't even want to talk about playoffs anymore. I don't even want to talk about the Cowboys. And eventually you get to the point in the fan where, as a fan, where you go through enough disappointment and heartbreak that your natural self-defense mechanism is like humor, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're just in it for the pure ridiculousness of it. That's where I'm at right now.
I'm just showing up right now.
Yeah.
I am showing up, having blind faith. I know everything's falling around us, but at the end of the day, this is what we do. We show up and support our team.
That's what we do, rain or shine. That's something we can take pride in. Trox.
I'm with Ben. I'm at 5 just because the only confidence I have, and it's not even that much, is in the defense because they played well in the second half last night. They can minimize and shut teams down, but confidence level, I don't have it. And I get that extra 1 just because we have 11 running the team. It's the only thing I can say.
Okay.
Confidence level is pretty at the minimum.
Okay.
I'm in clouds right now.
I like the justification.
Yeah.
Okay. Prime.
I'm at a 7 with you guys.
Okay.
I think, against the Giants, we did it last year. We turned our season against them.
Yeah.
I see that happening again. I mean, if they stay with that momentum they did with the second half of the year, we didn't catch it. But, I see them finishing off strong, especially in 2 weeks.
It's just what team shows up. And they got beat down for the last 3 weeks so bad and had to take, like, demoralizing L's. Like, not just, like, the worst kind of L's. Chances to beat good teams, letting it go against bad teams.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely been bipolar the last couple of weeks. And with offenses, defense is really great. They're expecting a huge performance against Miami. Then they crapped the bed. And then, the offense came together and the defense sort of came together. And they got this dub. So, I mean, we're just hoping that they've taken their meds. Yeah.
Next Twitter question, please.
All right, so
Take your medication.
Considering that we almost had Josh McCown going in at wide receiver, what are the chances? Andrew Greth wants to know, do we possibly go after J-Matt for a 4th time?
Oh, you're going to call up the booty call again? You're going to check with the side you're really going to send J-Matt the you up text?
Hey, you up, J-Matt?
You up? Yeah,
J-Matt's outside of Novacare with, you want to go to prom?
What up, big head? I don't see why not. But at that, listen, I mean, what do you got to lose?
I gotta make a phone.
Yo, Howie, shoot your shot, man. Slide the DMs.
Do you think he's answering on the first call, too?
Nah, he kicks at the voice,
He's playing hard to get.
He knows.
Yeah.
Yo, but seriously, what J-Matt got? What's J-Matt doing right now besides nothing? So and if
should we have asked AI if he could put the pads on?
Maybe.
Man, you don't like to practice. You're talking about.
You don't like to practice.
You don't like to practice. Be like, AI, put on the pads. What? All right, hit it.
So sticking with the wide receivers, there's been a lot of rumors swirling around in Cleveland about maybe OBJ wanting out. Do you think that's a possibility at wideout next season?
Man, I'm telling you, OBJ, like there's godly talent there. But I like I said, I've been following OBJ. I went to like Giants practices, training camp.
Mm-hmm.
The way that he conducts himself, I don't know if he's different now. He's kind of like grown up a little bit. He's definitely a kind of like a me guy, like in terms of like his brand and his vision, and it's now following him to Cleveland. He's going to other teams and like saying, "Come get me." Like, I mean, is that what we're doing? He's got talent. He's definitely has a sports hernia. He's got an injury now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not gonna say no, like because he's talented, but I don't think it's the be all to end all to get OBJ in here. I mean, we're talking about culture right now,
I got you.
but I take it.
Don't you have to be a me guy to be a wide receiver? In
I mean, everyone's kind of amoeba, but
Amoeba.
there's opportunity, like it's starting to follow him from team to team now. You
Yeah.
know, from the Giants to Cleveland. You know, I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire.
This season has tested my hypocrisy quite a bit this year. I mean, really, 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 really tested
Trading
it.
catches for culture.
Creating catches for culture. And right now, if you were to ask me 2 months ago, I would have smacked the stupid off of your face and said, "What are you talking about? Get the hell out of here, OBJ." But now, listen, you are right. He's kind of amoeba. But if you take a look back and look at the leadership that was in New York with the Giants, or lack thereof, and then he gets shipped to Cleveland with that crew over there.
It's a bad scene, dude.
It's a bad scene.
and we
When
partied
has
out in
OBJ
Cleveland.
been in a good locker room, like a solid, stable locker room, the type of locker room that when you're losing doesn't like throw things and you can't hear it outside the locker room? When's the last time OBJ's actually been in a stable environment? But then again, he is kind of a head case, isn't he?
But the one thing that I don't know if you guys noticed, he's not acting up. This will probably be the place where you see him act up because it's not going right for him. I don't see him acting up. So, I mean, I don't know.
Interesting.
I haven't heard much OBJ drama this year. With
Yeah.
as bad as underperforming as he's been doing with Baker throwing to
I
him.
mean, what do you do out in Cleveland? Like, I'm gonna go to the Rock and Roll Museum of Art. Or whatever. Like, what are you doing out in Cleveland? At New York, you're like all over the place.
I had a sister live in Cleveland for 4 years. Didn't visit once.
See?
Don't feel bad at
You
all.
know,
Yeah.
you know.
We went to Cleveland for the
They
Pro
got some
Football Hall of
I'm
Fame.
so
Solid corned
sorry.
beef.
Yeah, they got some solid corned beef.
That feels
About it.
awful.
Yeah, and
Shout out to Shody 40.
Shorty
Shorty Forty.
was in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Have you seen the before and after pictures of Baker? What Cleveland does to someone?
He looks like Columbo now, dude. He's like
Yeah.
depressed.
He looks like Randy Marsh, bro. He looks like real life Randy Marsh.
It's contagious, bro.
It's contagious, bro. Yo, listen. Gail, yay or nay?
on OBJ.
Yeah. Yay or nay on OBJ?
My hypocrisy knows no levels.
No bounds. No bounds.
No bounds. I mean,
Shout out to Val Kilmer.
just the way that our wide receivers are set up. I mean,
See the way my
you
checking
would-
and my savings.
you would just-
Wait,
you just
my
have to
wide
say
receivers
yes.
are checking.
But it's just imagine. It's just imagine. Like I sat there and looked at him and saw how annoyed the players around him at training camp were. His own teammates at the Giants. I had never seen anything like it, and I've played football a long time. I've never seen players look at another player like, "Dude, stop dancing. Like, what are you like? Stop showboating." The whole crowd. It was like, I've never seen anything like it. It was like more like he was like a rock star, and like half the crowd at the training camp was there for him, and the other players didn't like it.
Yeah, but that's the difference between maybe Giants fans and Eagles fans. That
So
if
is that
you're,
what
you're
happened?
acting up
We-
at training
we
camp,
eat it
we'll
up.
be like, "Yo, quit your dancing. Quit your dancing.
I ain't never seen anything.
Where's
like
your
it.
ballerina shoes? Quit
I
your
ain't seen-
dancing.
Yeah.
Get to playing some football."
Yeah, I take him.
I'll give you a solid maybe. Evan?
That's a yes from me.
It's a yes. Okay. Next one.
Alex Morrow wants to know, how much of J-Jaw's lack of production can you blame on him being taught every wide receiver position?
He's a Stanford guy. He should be smart enough to know. But is he capable of playing every wide receiver position? He has a unique set of skills, right, Gail?
Yeah, he's been cross-trained. It's just a matter of, like, we're talking about, we couldn't scheme up Golden Tate. I mean, they're having issues now scheming up players. So I think it's more of the scheme versus J-Jaw. I think if you play to his strengths, you can slant teams to death and throw the 9-ball. I mean, that's where he wins.
All right. Give me one more.
Why on earth, Chris Wild wants to know, why on earth has Greg Ward and Josh Perkins been on the practice squad for so long?
I think it's what I touched on earlier. You want to see your drafted guys, the guys that you dumped draft capital in, the guys that you picked, the guys that you picked ahead of other guys. J-Jaw, we can take a look at, we can revisit all that whole thing and Metcalf and all that. We can take a look at Mac Hollins, who when he was drafted, you hated that pick. He didn't like it at all.
The Pumphrey pick, hated that pick too.
You know, and you want to be right, man. That's just human nature. You want to be right. You want to be able to see. I saw it when nobody else did. I told you so. So you're giving those guys every opportunity, and you know that guys like Greg Ward and Boston Scott aren't going anywhere. But now that they're here, again, we're going to see in these last 3 games, last 4 games that started with last night, who wants to be here and who doesn't. And I think that plays a key. I don't think it's a knock on them or their talent. A lot of times I think it's just a numbers game. And let's not forget Perk. Let's throw Perk in there. Joshua Perkins.
Yeah, I mean, he played pretty well. I mean, coming off, he's got that hybrid, versatile tight end, wide receiver role. I think he came up big for us. Yeah.
All right. So before we get on out of here, a couple shout-outs, as we always do. Shout-out to Conshohocken Bakery for supplying the tailgates with all the yummy goodness that is their tomato pies and other treats. They mixed it up this week, man. They brought some other treats. It was much enjoyed by the people. It's so funny, like I was saying last week, like the tomato pies, people didn't really know what to make of them when we first got them at the tailgate. Now we're lucky if they last like an hour because people are just all over them. They're delicious, hot or cold. Please check them out, Conshohocken Bakery. Bud Light, who's not only sponsoring the tailgates with the beer, but sponsoring our little road trip, which I'll touch on in a minute, down to Washington to see the Eagles versus the Redskins. Shout out to Monster Energy for supplying the tailgate with the beverages. We appreciate that. Trying to think what else. Who else we got to thank? America Northeast Philadelphia Karate Mark. Make sure you check them out. Goofy Gators for accepting all these toys I'm about to deliver tomorrow.
Shout out to the
the tailgaters
Yeah.
that came and delivered those toys. And listen, Mark was like, hey, if one person brings a toy, that's a win for us. I'm like, hey, you don't know my people. Let me put out the call. Let me put up the bat signal. We'll see what happens. It's going to be a lot more than one.
And for those who weren't at this tailgate, we're also going to be doing this at the Dallas tailgate, so you have an opportunity to bring.
And Karate Mark will be there so you can fill up his trunk.
There you go.
Because I got more toys than I know what to do with. My kids are going to come home and be like, it's Christmas.
gonna be like,
this ain't for you.
It's going to be Toy
Put
Story
it down.
2.
Put
Toy
it
Story
down.
4
This ain't for you. You got to wait till Christmas. Details on the road trip. They're fluid at the moment, but what's probably going to happen is we are going to go down the morning of, bright and early. We're going to get there at about 9 o'clock. We're not going to set up the traditional Philadelphia Eagles tailgate where it's, the trailer and the lights and the music and everything like that. But we are going to be tailgating, bringing down a couple cases of beer and, putting up the flag. And so we'll let you know exactly where our parking pass is. For those of you looking for tickets, we are in Section 34, Row 2. Section 34, Row 2. So if you're planning on, obviously we're not traveling with the Green Legion or anybody else for this particular trip. So if you want to get tickets near us, again, Section 34. I got a feeling if this is anything like last year, man, it is going to be more of a home game than anything else. Prime was there. JT was there. It was a complete Eagles fan takeover. We were all chanting, "Let's go Bears," because I know they were playing the Vikings, everything. Dude, it's fun partying in the parking lot after a Eagles win in FedEx Field, knowing that you might be going to the playoffs. It's a crazy world.
You gotta believe.
You just gotta believe. You gotta
Show some
believe.
faith.
Anybody but Dallas. Hashtag. That's my message for this show. Anybody but Dallas. I love it. And until next time, we'll see you right here next week in NBC Sports Philadelphia studios with 4th and Jawn. We'll see you then.